The traveler wakes up in the desert and reaches for a nearby hill, where they discover a mountaintop in the distance with a bright light shining at the top of the peak. Drawn to it, the traveler must traverse the desert and go on their very own spiritual journey to reach the peak. Journey was initially released on March 13th, 2012 by That Game Studio and published by Sony Interactive, and was part of a 3 video game deal with the company, with Journey being the final video game that they released for Sony. And since its release, Journey has been publicized as one of the greatest video games of all time, and was an important stepping stone in journalism finally taking video games seriously in terms of its very simple yet poignant story, and showed that video games are a very good playground to tell very immersive and emotional stories. And that is why Journey is considered one of the greatest video games of all time. It is an amazing experience that sadly I didn't get to fully experience when it initially released, but in the past couple of years, I have played the game twice, once for the very first time and a second time for this review, and it really is a life-changing experience if you allow the game's simplistic narrative to take hold of you, and you have a little bit of understanding about story structure and storytelling as a whole, because Journey is filled to the brim with a lot of stuff that I have been kind of interested in for a very long time. If you look at Journey as a whole, it is a very simple game, very simplistic in its design, from the controls to the gameplay itself, because there's only 1 or 2 buttons that you use throughout this entire game. One is to jump, the other is to kind of interact by making these kind of notes that are, you're communicating with the outside world, and then, your simple direction buttons. And that's pretty much it, and yet it's all you need, because at its core, Journey is a very simple platformer as you go from area to area, jumping around and collecting pieces of this cloth that connects to your scarf and makes it longer as you go through the game. And you are starting out very much with one goal in mind. You see that mountaintop in the distance, and your goal is set. You are going to go to that, and the game will take you through quite a journey of sorts, and you'll be going through old ruins, maybe learning a little bit about this game's civilization, and then eventually reaching that peak. And it is a very emotional journey that is thanks in part to the game's fantastic soundtrack. This is a beautiful work of art that is also extremely emotional when you just sit and listen and you have all the feelings you need to get you through, to push through, and that is really great storytelling here. This blends so many things together, such as gameplay, music, design, and storytelling, into something that is one of the most compelling things that I have ever experienced. And the game is done with absolutely no dialogue at all. The story is presented to you through cutscenes, through your own personal journey and how you interact with the world. That is the story. And I wish games would do this more often, show us visually what's going on, because video games are a visual medium where you are interacting with the game itself, and the story is completely dependent upon what you do. You make the decisions in this game, and so your decisions affect how this journey will be. Will it be very fast? Will it be very slow? You can take your time with this game. It is only 2 hours, but you can expand that in a really great way by taking in the vistas and the visuals, listening to the music, trying to understand the cryptic bits of story. And at the heart of Journey is Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which, if you are not familiar with, this is quintessential storytelling that has gone through the ages. Joseph Campbell was a fantastic academic who studied cultures, myths, and storytelling and put it all into one book. And I have read A Hero of a Thousand Faces, and it is an incredible work that details how a hero's journey is supposed to go. And for a great example of how the hero's journey is, you can look no farther than Star Wars. But I think Journey really takes everything down to its essence. You have that call to adventure when you see that mountain in the distance. You have your road of trials as you go through all these different puzzles, trying to make it towards the end. And then you have your ascension at the very end as you make that climb up that mountain and kind of reach a sort of nirvana in a way. And it's beautifully done with such a simplistic way of presenting its story, and it's incredibly emotional by the end. I found myself tearing up at the very end, due in part to the incredible music and the subtlety of how this journey comes to an end, and you feel so fulfilled by the end. It's wonderful to experience the first time, and then when you play that second time, you really get a full understanding of the scope and wonder of this game. And something that's really cool about this game, and I didn't experience this my second time playing through, but my first time playing, and I can only imagine what it would have been like when this game was initially released, when more people were playing it. You can meet other people, other players on your journey, and you can help each other through to the very end. And you can't communicate with them only through a designated button that you press to help people along. And you don't know who these people are until you reach the very end, where it reveals to you what their name is, their gamer tag, or whatever you may. And it's really amazing. You get a connection with a real person on a very emotional level. And I think that's really fascinating. Or, like my second playthrough, you can go this alone, and the game works the exact same way. It is a very lonely game, but there are hopeful moments through the music, through the beautiful visuals, and that thought of finally reaching that mountaintop is so ingrained in you. You will stop at nothing to get there. And that's the whole point, especially once we get to the very end of the game and things begin to take a turn for the worst. And I think that's just really fascinating to me. This is a wonderful game. I absolutely love every moment of it. And it's so short and so simple, but yet it has with it so many great themes, and the use of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the monomyth, is really good. It works here in a way that even Star Wars doesn't exactly work, because Star Wars takes all the essence of the hero's journey and whittles it down, but this does it even more minutely. And I think you get an incredibly rich story and experience by the end. Journey is ultimately visual storytelling at its finest. It is a simple game, but it is thought-provoking, and it is something that I think that everybody should experience at least once in their life, to say that they have experienced this game, because I think if you let the story take hold of you, then you will have an amazing time. It will change you in a lot of ways, like it changed me, because I started this game thinking, oh, this is a really good, beautiful looking game. And yet by the end, I was emotionally exhausted by the story and the journey it took me through. So anyway, guys, with all of that said, I'm going to give Journey a 9 out of 10. This is one of the best video games of all time. It's not one of my personal favorites or anything, but it is very much worth your time and effort to sit down and play. It only takes about 2 hours, and it will be an experience that you will never forget. But anyway, guys, with all of that said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.